Hey guys, welcome to the channel. In the run-up to Mandalorian and Grogu releasing in cinemas on May 22nd, I'm reviewing all of the live-action content in the Star Wars universe, and we are now at Andor. Let's talk about it. Star Wars Andor was created by Tony Gilroy and is a Disney Plus streaming series. There's 2 seasons. I'm going to talk about both seasons here. If you haven't watched it yet, this will contain spoilers, so don't watch this. Go and watch and come back and let me know what you thought. So obviously, as part of the Star Wars franchise, it is a prequel to the anthology film Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and the original 1977 movie Star Wars. Chronologically, it's set after Obi-Wan Kenobi. The series follows an ensemble cast, primarily centered upon thief-turned-rebel spy Cassian Andor during the 5 formative years leading up to the events of the 2 films, exploring Andor's radicalization against the Galactic Empire as well as the formation of the wider Rebel Alliance. So let's break this down by characters because it's very much a character piece show. It's full of chocker of interesting characters and development. So firstly, we have Diego Luna returning as Cassian Andor from Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Now, I loved him in that movie. I thought he was a really interesting character, especially coupled with K2SO, a reprogrammed Imperial droid. Between them, they had great chemistry, and then you also obviously had Jyn so as well, and all the other characters that he could bounce off of, and it was just a great time and a great character. So he comes back in this one. It's a prequel story for him. His home planet, we get to see him as a child, and his home planet is essentially deemed uninhabitable by the Empire. He's adopted, and he's taken to another planet where he grows up. And basically, he is a small-time thief in this show up until he kills 2 officers who were basically a threat to him. They confronted him, he lashed out, killed them, and then ends up like a spiral, which eventually leads him to basically joining Luthen, who is a key part of the rebellion, which we'll talk about in a short moment. But yeah, sort of small-time thief turning into kind of a spy that is kind of trying to just get to where he wants to be in life, but he knows that he has a bigger calling. This really is about his character's growth from that small spy, small thief, to someone that wants to give his life for the rebellion to destroy the Empire. That's the character he becomes in Rogue One. We have Kyle Soller as Cyril, and he is a deputy inspector who basically becomes committed to hunting down Andor after he killed those 2 kills those 2 officers, and probably one of the weakest characters for me. I found it a little bit odd. There were a lot of scenes where he was essentially sat eating cereal with his mother and listening to his mother moan at him and telling him that he needs to get a good job and go and take the opportunity in the Empire and all this stuff, and it's a bit strange, but I think it has something that's not Star Wars. It works, but it's so jarring when you go into this, especially for the first time. When I watched this show for the first time, it was like you go in expecting Star Wars, and you don't really. In all fairness, you don't get a lot of Star Wars especially in the first season, or at least you don't get what you have always known to be Star Wars. But his character definitely has a better progression in the second season for sure. Stellan Skarsgård, who is a fantastic actor, by the way. Seen him in several things. Obviously, being the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, he's in that. But he plays Luthen in this, who is posing as an antiques dealer, and we see loads of little Easter eggs in his shop. For if you're a Star Wars lore nerd, there is so much to see that you'd recognize here, from suits of armor to just strange little artifacts that you kind of become familiar with. But he's a key figure in the Rebel Alliance, and one of the things I found about the rebels in this is they don't gloss it over. They're essentially terrorists. We kind of see that in the other films in Star Wars. You could technically say, like, oh, these terrorists, because the Empire is essentially the government body in the universe. This show kind of blurs the line of the Rebel Alliance between good and bad. You know, it's not solely good. There's a lot of sacrifices to be made for the greater good, and Luthen's part of that. Fiona Shaw, but or as I keep saying, it's Aunt Petunia. She's great in this. She's Marva, who is basically the mother of Andor, who adopted Andor. and she has a short-lived moment, but an impactful one. Her death in this kind of sparks a rebellion on her planet. I might butcher this name; it's a bit of a hard one to pronounce, but Genevieve O'Reilly, I want to say, as Mon Mothma, reprising her role actually from Revenge of the Sith and Rogue One. She's played Mon Mothma, and she plays her very, very well. She's essentially in the middle of the politics of the Empire, but in the background, she's using her family fortune to fund the rebels, and she's trying to find strings that she can pull in government to her side. She has a lot of friends, she has a lot of enemies, while also still trying to maintain her relationship with her family. Her husband is very much on the Empire's side, and it's just a very interesting position to see more of Mon Mothma and the internal politics. And again, Star Wars has always been political. This is definitely the most political we've seen it. Denise Gow or Denise Goff, one of the two. Sorry again, I'm butchering names. She plays Dedra. She's a really ambitious and strategic supervisor to the ISB, and she is really, really gunning to capture the rebels and end it so she can look good to her peers. Ben Mendelsohn's back in this in season 2 as Krennic, and he's just fantastic. I love the character of Krennic. He's really imposing in this too, which I really like. And I just love that character. I just think he makes a great Imperial officer. Alan Tudyk is reprising his role as K2SO in the second season as well. But other notables here and other notable characters here and actors, we have Andy Serkis, who actually played Snoke in the sequel trilogy. He's back as a different character, Kino Loy, who is one of the prisoners on the island prison sort of planet, and I absolutely love his character. I love the ending to that prison sequence. It's just a great moment. I'm going to talk more about the prison in a moment, so just stick with me there. But he's great in this. I love, what is there not to love about Andy Serkis? He's a fantastic actor, and it's just good to see him not as a mocap character for a change. We have Ben Bailey Smith, aka Doc Brown, if you don't know him, but in this he's an Imperial officer, but he is a great comedic actor, and he's in Life on the Road, which is the David Brent spin-off movie from The Office UK. He's in that. He's so good in that movie, and I've always liked Doc Brown. I just think he's always been funny and great. So to see him in Star Wars was a delight, and he did that role really, really well. Forrest Whitaker comes back as Saul Guerrero from Rogue One as well. Briefly, some cool scenes there. Now, I'd say the first part of this season is quite slow. The show is a slow burn. Don't go into this expecting this fast-paced battles and space battles and lightsabers, because it's not that. It feels like a grown-up spy thriller set in Star Wars, and in fact, sometimes it doesn't feel like Star Wars. You have to suddenly get pulled out when you see a TIE fighter fly across, and you're just like, oh shit, yeah, I'm watching Star Wars. It doesn't follow the usual kind of formula of a Star Wars story. It's jarring at first going in as a Star Wars fan, but you get out of it so much more than just a Star Wars show. But I don't think season 1 actually gets as good as it can get until episode 8, where Cassian is taken to Narkina 5, which is this prison, and it reminds me of the movie Fortress starring Christopher Lambert. If you've not seen that movie, it's a futuristic prison where these characters are trying to escape, and it just feels near on impossible. It's just a similar vibe, and I just love the whole prison thing in this show. Like, it could have been its own thing, like a prison break in Star Wars is such a cool idea. And little do we know that they are working during the day. They're working on something, and they have to like make sure they have the production numbers, otherwise they get punished. But what they're actually doing is, for the bigger picture, is they're building parts for the Death Star. So you don't know that until much later, and it just pays off so well. Now, it's interesting because really Andor doesn't progress the main narrative that is the Star Wars story, but what it does, it captures a glimpse of how people are living amongst all of this chaos. There's lines in Rogue One where they're talking about, can you stand to see the Imperial banner fly? Jyn Erso comes back with, it's not a problem if you don't look up. This show kind of explores that idea. You've got characters that are just trying to get by with the Empire being in total control. You have people that just will not live to see that rule, and how it all funds itself, how they got the money to be able to get the machinery and the weaponry and all of that stuff. Once some of the dialogue is really, really interesting through Cassian, and that is when he's constantly, not constantly, but he talks about it a lot, about how the Empire are too fat and greedy to care or notice, which is true. They get away with so much stuff, and it explains why the rebels are always able to disguise themselves in other films or shows, or like how they're able to get away with so much stuff. It's actually because they are too fat and well fed. They don't care. They've got their agenda, and they think they're unstoppable. So it gives a more humanized feeling to that idea, especially because we see that as well from the ISB Imperial side in this show. We see that kind of inner conflict, that inner arrogance, and it's displayed here tenfold. It's just so captivating. There's an entire arc in this first season about how they are going to carry out this heist to get money, to get credits for their rebellion to help fund, and they do this on the backdrop of a rare, like a yearly celestial event called the Eye on this planet, and it's controlled by the Imperials. So they're trying to, first we see them get their crew together, and there's this whole problem where Andor comes in late, and so everyone's a bit on edge and trying to sort of figure out why he's come in late and who he is. And then they're setting up this plan. They go through all the details molecularly, and you kind of feel like you're in that group about to take on a heist. You feel like you're part of the plan, and I think that's just so well written. It goes down to its writing, its pacing, and just the cinematography. When we get the event, the Eye event, the celestial event, there's a backdrop to the heist, and it's some of the best cinematography we've seen in Star Wars. It's beautiful, all these light streaks and meteors going across the sky, and having the TIE fighters fly to the backdrop of that just looks amazing. Like the sunset view we get, I think it's in Force Awakens or The Last Jedi, one of the two, but you get the TIE fighters on the backdrop to a sunset. It's shots like that just captivate me with Star Wars, and I've always loved it. The second season, though, I think is where it shines the most. I think the first season, you get to the sort of over halfway point, and when it starts ramping up with the prison stuff. But in season 2, it pretty much takes off straight away, where Cassian steals a TIE fighter, delivers it to this sort of jungle moon, and gets himself caught amongst this group that have split, and they're fighting each other, and he's kind of stuck amongst it while trying to continue the mission he has, and he's against time. We have this big focus in season 2 on the Gormans and the Gorman massacre, which in Star Wars lore is quite a popular one. Krennic and the Empire want to gather this rare mineral from the planet, and we get a lot of protesting from the Gormans, and eventually it turns into basically a big riot, and there is a massacre of these people, and it goes into full-blown kind of World War II-esque violence and genocide, and it's really just crazy to see that this is a Star Wars project. To see stormtroopers and Imperial officers in this it's just insane. It's so much deeper and more adult, more grown up than anything we've had before. When you look at the Mandalorian and Grogu and what that does, and baby Yoda is so cute and all this stuff, and you watch it against this show, and it's like it's night and day. Like Bix, one of the main characters, Bix, in this suffers from the after effects of sexual assault, and she then has to rely on drugs to get her through it, and she goes into a dark place, and that is just deep. Like Star Wars touching on sexual assault is absolutely mind-blowing. It's just not been done before. And the thing is, the show isn't just about the rebellion. Like, of course it builds on that slowly, but it's really about how everyone, all of the characters have their own rebellion going on, their own thing, their own fight. And it's actually said by one of the characters, it's like, we all have our own rebellion, right? And it's really about what everyone's struggling to figure out what's worth fighting for. Gilroy's writing in this absolutely shines. It takes us to depths we've never seen before in this universe. Grounds it makes it feel more real. It's not just about space wizards. The show enriches the main saga, especially Rogue One being my favorite Star Wars as well. It enriches that so much. And when you go and watch Cassian's character in that movie just gives more depth to his character and makes me love his character more. Now, obviously, it does dip here and there, especially season one. It's a slow burn. The first few episodes are very, very, very slow. A lot of people I really like, a lot of people I know that love Star Wars started series one and just couldn't get there, and I just had to keep telling them to stick with it, stick with it, stick with it, because it does eventually just click, and then it goes full speed ahead with something. Once you realize what you're watching, you've got to kind of got to, when, even though you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to watch Star Wars Andor, you've kind of got to go in with without that Star Wars head on your shoulders. You're not going in for a fantasy space adventure. It's a dark political thriller, and it's very, very, very heavy. It's a heavy show to watch. It's not something that I could rewatch a lot over and over and over again. Probably not every year. I mean, I do enjoy it, but it just, because it sits so far out of the Star Wars story and it's completely different to what I go to Star Wars for. It's not necessarily a bad thing that I don't watch this every year. It's just its own thing. It's its own creation. It's its own beast, and I love it. It's great. I'd highly recommend season 1 and 2, guys. You really should go and check it out. That was my thoughts on Andor season 1 and 2. What did you guys think? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Let me know down in the comment section below. A lot of people say this is like the best Star Wars has ever been, so I'd like to know if you agree with that. The next one I'm reviewing is going to be Rogue One, a Star Wars story, so stay tuned for that review. I don't give TV shows ratings really, because they can be so mixed mashed with ratings with different episodes and seasons, so I just give this one a thumbs up. If you're new, consider hitting subscribe. It's completely free, and ring that notification bell if you want to see all of my uploads moving forward. Give me a thumbs up and a comment, because the algorithm likes to push my videos if you have that, so the more thumbs up the better. Please do that. And if you just want to leave a comment just to say you enjoyed this video, if you like the Andor show, if you have anything you want to share, any like Easter eggs or like things you think I might not know, something new, something you disagree with, let's get discussing that in the comment section. I'll see you real soon with the next one, guys. Take care of yourselves.